Well, good morning, everyone, or maybe good afternoon or evening, depending where you're joining us from. Welcome here to the launch pad and our live launch coverage of NROL 199 launching with Rocket Lab on their Electron rocket from the Māhia Peninsula in New Zealand. If it's your first time here, though, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the launch pad, and you're joining us for our live launch coverage. Take a moment, let us know in the chat where you're watching from. We'd love to welcome you here. If it's your first time here, let us know that as well, and we'll give you possibly a shout out there. Here at the Launchpad, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together, and we bring you full live launch coverage, space briefings, space news updates, exclusive one on one interviews, and some more special broadcasts when they're required, like when we track that China core stage coming down over the last couple of days. Luckily, for those that haven't followed along, that did land in water, but it looks like some debris did land on land, but no reports of any major damage or injuries. So great news there. But we're here for an Electron launch. This was supposed to happen a couple of weeks ago for Rocket Lab, bringing up their Electron to a very quick reusability of the Electron rocket. But they had some delays with their payload and their rocket, so they always, better to delay than rush into it and have an issue. So we are now targeting liftoff in just 27 minutes from now from Launch Complex 1B at the Rocket Lab Launch Complex in the Māhia Peninsula in New Zealand. Now, today is a mission. It's the second of two NRO missions for the Australian Department of Defense. So we don't know a whole lot about actually the payload on board, but we do know that they will not be attempting to necessarily recover the rocket itself. It will land into the Pacific Ocean, but from what we're hearing, it might still have that red coloring on it, but they're not actually deploying the helicopter for recovery. At last weather update, we were hearing that they were still 70% go for launch here today, so everything's proceeding well. Rocket Lab should get underway here in about 5 minutes or so from now, and that's when we'll patch them in, listen into Rocket Lab mission control, and go from there. I see right off the bat questions coming in. Mar is asking, why wasn't this launch originally supposed to launch from Wallops Island? They did have some missions for the NRO, like this one scheduled to launch from Wallops. They did have a delay in bringing their Wallops location online, and now it sounds like that Wallops location might not come online until their Neutron rocket does in a couple of years. Side note, if you want to get our Neutron shirt or anything else from the Launchpad shop, normally we have a 10% off promo because it's a launch day, but even better is back to school. Many people of you have kids, or maybe yourself are going back to school, or why not just get something and say you're going back to school and get the discount anyways. So you can head on over to the launchpad.store or grab the link that's in the chat or ping to the top of the chat, and you can get 15% off site-wide. No promo code needed. It adds it at your checkout, and we have global shipping available. Really great opportunity to be able to go get an Artemis shirt or Starship shirt to have something ready for those launch days coming up. And of course, Artemis 1 coming up just a few weeks from now. And most of the TLP team is jumping on planes and heading down to Florida. And we're going to bring you full live coverage of Artemis 1 from on the ground, as well as some behind the scenes videos for our members. So make sure you stay tuned for that. If you'd like to help support what we do, you can become a member by hitting that join button or be heading on over to our Patreon. Patreon's a great option to help save that extra 30% going to us rather than to YouTube. So definitely take a moment, check that out. Now that all that YouTube stuff's out of the way, though, we're here for Rocket Lab. We're here for a launch. So we're going to actually try something a little bit different. Working towards something where we've been working on that we'll hopefully be able to announce soon. We're going to take a look actually at the press kit for today. Rocket Lab generally puts these out for these missions. Now, not a whole lot is always known about these NRO missions, but we thought it'd be interesting to run through it really quickly as we await for Rocket Lab to actually get underway here in 3 or 4 minutes time. So we'll quickly run through it. For it. Today's launch window is a launch window that opens for about 2 hours. So if we do see any sorts of holds in today's count, doesn't mean they necessarily are scrubbing for the day, but they will still be able to continue today's mission, NROL 199, for the National Reconnaissance Office. They're going to be launching from Launch Complex 1B, the second pad that Rocket Lab has built on their facility. You can see a picture of the pad there. Part I wanted to really run us down to, they talk a bit about the responsiveness of space. It's a big thing about them becoming reusable, but also frequently available. So being able to call up missions last minute. But a timeline of today's launch events to give you a rough idea. At T minus 6 hours, that's when the road to the launch site was officially closed. Electron was raised vertically at T minus 4 hours, and we had confirmation of that. Personnel have had pad clear since 2.5 hours to launch, and fueling did begin at T minus 2 hours. We've heard that began on time and is proceeding well. To the 2 hour mark, that's also when they shut down the marine airspace or marine space to shut it down, and then airspace at T minus 30 minutes. So just about 7 minutes ago, they shut that down. We should have a no go poll at T minus 18 minutes, just a couple minutes after Rocket Lab gets started. And looking at that, they just delayed their stream. So this will be interesting. We've got about a 30-minute delay for them starting up. So it looks like they're going to be pushing into that later window. So I'll take a look and see if we have any updates from them yet on their Twitter on what caused today's delay. They're adjusting the T0 due to wind. So we have had a slight wind delay. So they're going to try to get underway in about 30 minutes from now, pushing into that 2 hour launch window. But that's why we have these longer launch windows, and that's what we hope for. Once they get up and running here, launch auto sequence will begin at T minus 2 minutes, ignition, and then liftoff. Just confirming the launch window they're looking at now. They are now targeting 1:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 10:30 p.m. Pacific Time, or 5:30 UTC. So we're seeing actually an hour delay for the launch itself, but we're seeing a 30-minute delay in their stream. So that's what we're looking to see here. So we'll have more time to answer your guys' comments and questions as we go through today's stream here. But if you're just joining us, welcome here to the Launchpad. You're joining us for our live launch coverage of NROL-199 launching from the Māhia Peninsula with Rocket Lab. We've had a little bit of a delay in today's mission, so we're going to be answering your guys' questions live. If you guys have questions, you can send those to us in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad, and we'll be working on answering those live throughout today's stream. While we have a little bit of a break, it's a great time to also go head on over and check out that shop and get in on that back-to-school promo there. Crazy Horse says, thanks for the tracker of the weekend. Was interesting. Absolutely crazy. That's a sentence I didn't think I'd say. But we're glad you enjoyed that tracker. We'll definitely try to do that again in October. That's when they're going to be doing so there. 41 South, thanks so much for being a member. Great to see you here. Great to see all of you joining in. I know a bunch of people all over the world jumping in on the stream here tonight. It's great to have you all here. See where people are tuning in from. We got Nancy in Mexico. We got Professor in Canada. We got Don in Northeast USA. Great to have you here. We've got I'm going to say this wrong, and I apologize. Chi Iharu in Okinawa, Japan. Welcome. It's great to have you here. We got June in Southern Oregon in Rogue Valley. Great to have you here as well. Gary is in Nevada. We got Ohio. We got Australia with D. Great to see you here. Jedi in Titusville. Great to have you here as well. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat. We'll be answering those live for you as we have a little bit of a delay in today's mission. We'll go a little bit deeper into the mission then in a few minutes once we answer a few of those questions there. Kyler, does TLP plan on attending the first launch of Starship? I'm planning on taking my 2 boys to that historic launch. That's a really fun one, Kyler. A really fun question. We've been going through this with our team on figuring out how to do this. We 100% want to have TLP there. The unique part of this situation is we also have SLS launching. SLS, we have dates. So I am flying down to Florida, in about 2.5 weeks. We're packing up the whole studio, Starlinks and everything, and bringing it all down to Florida, setting up a studio at a house there. And we'll be bringing full coverage down there for 2 weeks. I'll be down in Florida. The fun part about it is rumors are having that SpaceX might try to launch in the same time window. I can't be in 2 places at once. Also, TLP and myself are accredited with NASA for Artemis 1. So we are going to have a number of events leading up to the launch day. So that's why I'm coming down so early, which means if SpaceX tries to do something before it or even right after it, I'm in Florida. So we have some team that will be in Texas and we'll be bringing some coverage there. It's still unknown how open that area is going to even be to the public. There's talking about extending further exclusion zones more than the 5 miles. And if they do that, that impacts Port Isabel and South Padre Island. Still going to be able to see it from a long ways around, but you might not be super close to see it. So our hope is that we'll have at least some of the team. I would love to be there. But it's a hard toss-up. SLS, Starship. Starship, we're going to see another one next month. That's kind of where I'm landing at it. SLS is 2 to 3 years. So Definitely a really exciting launch. I'm going to try to do my best to actually be on site myself, but if not, we will definitely be covering it here. Don't worry about that. We'll have full coverage of the launch here, and we'll work on having some of our team there as well. But right now, we're throwing a lot of eggs into the SLS basket, per se. James from Abilene, Texas, great to have you here. Thanks for joining us. John, thank you so much for that super chat. Really appreciate it. And see John sending a question, what is today's payload? We don't know. Today's payload is one of 2 missions for the National Reconnaissance Office in partnership with the Australian Department of Defense. The mission follows the successful launch of a launch on July 13th. That was called Wise One Look Ahead. And it's a twin of missions to demonstrate the national security's responsive launch system for the United States using Electron. These were originally to take place at Wallops, and now are being launched, though, from New Zealand. So that's what we're going to see happen here tonight. So we don't know a whole ton about what's on board today, but it is something. We'll run through a little bit of the press release that they put out for us as we wait for RocketLab to get underway. About 25 minutes from now, they'll be starting up because we have had a slight delay due to wind in the region. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that. If you're just joining us, though, welcome. You're here at the launch pad. You're joining us for our live launch coverage of NROL-199 launching with Electron. Had a little bit of a wind delay, so we're running through the press package and answering your guys' questions. So you can send those to us in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. We went through this a little bit earlier, but we'll skim down here, talking a little bit more about Rocket Lab's responsive space program. So this is something Rocket Lab's really proud of and really excited to really start being able to push out, is the idea of having their multiple launch sites. So they have New Zealand, but also working to bring Wallops online. But they have 2 pads at New Zealand. And the really unique thing about that is they have multiple Electrons in their factory there, pretty much ready to go. So Rocket Lab's hope is that they will be able to offer payload launch companies a launch provider option at short notice. So you could, within weeks, have your payload launching rather than having to necessarily plan months or years even for it. They want to have fast, reusable rockets with responsive launch sites, and they want to provide responsive satellites as well, which is where they use their kick stage and actually are able to turn that into a satellite as well. So that's what their real hope is for this, being able to bring Rocket Lab's Electron rocket into the reusable sector. Their new kind of look is this bright silver rocket with that red stripe. When you see red, think reusable, except for tonight. They're not recovering tonight's with the helicopter. It'll be daytime, obviously, there, but that is what they are going to look like going forward in the future. That new silver there to help with that reentry heating, and that's what we're going to be here seeing today. They do have a number of partnerships to work with U.S. national security companies. That's what they kind of run through here on previous launches that they've already done. Having launched well over 100 satellites into orbit, they are really starting to push that number into the history books for them, and looking at having many more national reconnaissance flights in the future. They had quite a bit of support from the U.S. There quite early on, and that's why we're seeing so much history really only in a couple of years, even though we're only in the first 30-40 flights of Electron. We were going through this just before that timeline of today's events. Once we have liftoff, it's going to be rather quick. Total time for payload deployment is 1 hour after liftoff. We probably won't be live for that whole time. Rocket Lab generally with the National Reconnaissance payloads cuts right at fairing separation, so we're not able to actually see that. But main engine cutoff, MECO, 2 minutes, 27 seconds into flight. Stage 1 separation immediately following, and Stage 2 ignition. Fairing separation will be 3 minutes in the flight. That's probably the last time we'll see actual pictures of the rocket, as it is a national security payload. And then 6 minutes, 44 seconds in flight. That's one of the biggest moments to watch. That is when they actually dropped 2 batteries off the rocket and swapped it 2 more, rather than carrying that dead weight. We have seen a failure occur there before, so that's always one of those bigger moments to actually watch. Electron will be officially in low Earth orbit at 9 minutes, 17 seconds into flight, and then they will have the second stage shutdown and kick stage separation just over 9.5 minutes in there, and then they will coast for a little bit, have some small burns with their Curie engine, and payload deployment 1 minute into flight. A little bit of a breakdown of the Electron launch vehicle as we take your guys' questions. You can keep sending those in the chat by taking us at the launch pad. And if you haven't yet, can you take a moment, engage that like button? It really does help us out. And if you haven't yet, make sure you engage the subscribe button as well so you never miss another live launch coverage, space news update, space briefing, or exclusive one-on-one interview. We've got some interviews with the Artemis 1 team coming up this week, so make sure you stay tuned for those. Catching up on your guys' questions in the chat here. Yeah, no recovery on this one, but hopefully in the near future. It'd be really exciting to see them starting to be able to do that. Question: will we pass over Florida, where the states where we can see it? Don't believe we actually have launch trajectory. Do we have launch trajectory? Sometimes they provide it to us. I didn't see a launch trajectory in today's package, so I do not believe you will be able to see it. I mean, eventually everything kind of passes over Florida, but I do not believe you'll be able to see it. No, it is a small rocket as well, so that it's a lot more less visible over time. Alex, this is for the NRO, not the U.S. Space Force, right? So this is more of a mission for reconnaissance, not missile warning. Correct. We have the missile warning launch is coming up. I want to say it is on Wednesday/Thursday, depending where you are in the world, with the Atlas. That is the, I believe the Atlas is the one launching the missile warning system. Let me just work to confirm that. Yes. Yeah. Atlas 5421 SBIRS GO6 launching on August 4th at 10:29 to 11:09 UTC. Weather we've been hearing is pretty good for that one still. Launching from Cape Canaveral. That is the missile warning launch. So we do have that coming up though, Alex. So kind of both within this week. August 4th looking to be a very big kickoff to the month. 3 launches within 18 hours. So excited to see that there. That's very true, Diggity. Very used to cameras on SpaceX and not something that we always will get to have, so we do have to keep that in mind. If you're just joining us here, welcome. We'll be covering the live launch of RocketLab's NROL-199 here. We had a small delay due to wind, a delay of about an hour for the actual, well, about half an hour for the actual target launch window and about a half an hour for their live stream as well. So we're now about 20 minutes away from Rocket Lab getting underway, and that's when we'll hear an update from Mission Control. An hour ago, we did have confirmation that LOX load was well underway, and they were preparing for the 29th mission and their third liftoff from Pad B, so already starting to really get that in place. That's interesting, John. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's YouTube. Honestly, the best way to make sure you never miss us going live is heading on over to our Discord. We do have a live notifications section there that you can turn notifications on for. And then what we do is we ping that section of the Discord anytime we go live. We also have a separate one for when we do our live news updates, videos, and things like that. So you can get notified of those as well. Stefan asking, when is the next recovery attempt for Rocket Lab? This is not something we have been told as of yet. They have not actually laid out when that next one will happen. It really is mission dependent, but they have said this year. They do expect to have a couple more recovery attempts within the next year. D asking, how many attempts to go for Artemis? 0. We are finally there. 0 more tests for Artemis. The next test is launch. So we're very excited to see that. Artemis targeting August 29th at 8:33 a.m. Eastern Time with a 2-hour launch window. So they'll have 120 minutes that they can launch Artemis 1's SLS in. And we'll be live there from the press site with our own cameras. And of course, patching in the live feeds from NASA and commentary. We'll be providing live commentary from the press site as well. So we're really excited about that. We just released some new Artemis gear over on our shop. So head on over to there and you can check that out and place an order to make sure that you have your Artemis gear prior to the Artemis Day. Happy birthday, Metal. Great to have you here. Happy 60th. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat. Make sure you try to tag us at the launch pad. That's going to help us flag those questions so I can answer them And very soon, we'll hopefully be able to do some more exciting things with you doing those tags as well. Cameron, any idea of whether it's going to be polar or equatorial based on the previous NRO launches I've set up at the beach across the water in the pier, and wondering if I should go landscape or portrait? That is awesome that you are down there on site, Cameron. Thanks for jumping in the chat too. Appreciate that. And stuff. Let me take a look here and see if I can find roughly even just an inclination we're going for you. Not a ton was put out about this just because of it. Obviously, it's security, but hopefully we can have an update here for you on that, possibly, or at least based off of the last launch. Give me one moment on that one. You flagged me on something I didn't have an answer for. Are you going to try to track it, Cameron, or are you trying to just do a steady shot and just catch it fly away? Because that might change my answer too. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it. Alex, why is SLS so darn expensive? I mean, most of the hardware comes from the STS era. A lot does come from the STS era. And STS, the issue was it was very expensive. So not only are we using old equipment that we're refurbishing and trying to upgrade a bit, we're also then trying to basically reactivate old systems. So the RS-25s are an old engine. They were reusable. Now we're not reusing them. At least the 16 that we have from Shuttle, which is tragic in itself, but we won't go there. But yeah, the RS-25s were reusable. We're not reusing them, but once we throw these 16 away, we need new ones. So we're having to return on all of those building facilities to build new engines, test them in advance to be able to catch up for Artemis 4 and later. They also already, we had confirmation of this recently to our team, Artemis 2 and 3's Orion capsules are already in construction, and the first pieces of 4 have already been getting cut as well. 4 is not supposed to launch until 2026 or 27. So they're working quite a ways out. Same thing with the core stages. We'll see more testing of those starting up probably in the next year as well. It's also government. It's a more expensive program. They do hope to bring the cost down. One thing that I think is really interesting to hear about, and we'll go into this with an interview coming up this week, is actually that the first 3 to 4 Orions will not be reusable. There will be components of them that are reusable, but not the entire vehicle, where Artemis 4 or 5-ish, they're hoping, the whole capsule will be able to kind of be refurbished and reused like Crew and Cargo Dragon. So these earlier missions will also be more expensive. Right now, the United States has put in about $28 billion to get to this first launch. But keep in mind, they've also spent money already on 2, 3, and 4. So that does get spread out. Right now, it's averaging about $4.2 billion per launch. Don't get me wrong, super expensive. But it's a government program, and that's just kind of how those things work. So that's what we're seeing there. So it will hopefully come cheaper over time, but it is an expensive program there. Fatal, what upcoming events are you most excited for? Starship and SLS. Easy. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm really excited for the return of Falcon Heavy too. But Starship, SLS, Falcon Heavy, you put those 3. If we get all 3 of those this year, what an amazing second half of 2022. Cameron, just getting a single long exposure shot. Ooh. Good question. I would probably do Horace. That's a hard one because they go quite vertical, but you are further away. Have you shot there before? I personally I love horizontal pictures. They're nicer. You can crop them to vertical. Vertical is really hard to work with if you can't crop it. So I would probably go horizontal. But Cameron, if you can actually connect with us, it'd be great. We'd love to talk about having someone with TLP actually down there for RocketLab stuff in the future. So if you'd be interested, you can head over to our website. I'll drop a link actually in the, I believe this is it. That should put a link in the chat that you can click and should give you an easier way to connect with us, or on our Discord or Twitter, or whichever works as well. At this point, for those of you that are just joining us, welcome here to the Launchpad. You're joining us for our live coverage of RocketLab NROL-199, a mission for the National Reconnaissance Office and Australian Defence. We are waiting for RocketLab. Had a bit of a wind delay at the pad, so they did delay their launch about 30 minutes into the window. RocketLab, should be going live in about 12 minutes, so we'll be patching that in and listening in to mission control as well. Thanks, Delicious. Appreciate it. Awesome, John. Appreciate that. And this record quite often. And thanks, Kat. Working on it. We got a little tweaking to do. We got some new things in. Some not so space related, but cool stuff. But we've got this set, and then we have another kind of side set that we're moving some stuff around with and getting stuff packed up also to take down to Artemis. So we will see. That's awesome, Cameron. Thanks so much. It'll be great to connect with you. Okay, vertical makes more. That makes sense because it goes further away, so it goes higher. That makes sense. Yeah, they haven't sent a lot out. I'm not even sure we really can tell from the last launch either. Let me see if I can find that previous flight from 2 weeks ago to see if there's any kind of clear view on what they actually did, which direction they went. They showed a map at the end or not. I don't think they did. Sometimes they show that map when they stay live until tracking. But because these are reconnaissance offices, they don't share all that much. I want to say the last one looks like it went to the east. But it's hard to tell completely. I want to say it went to the east. So we'll see what happens. Maybe they'll tell us when they start the stream there. If you're just joining us, though, we are now 30 minutes away from liftoff of NROL-199. We're stalling for some time, so we await for RocketLab to go live. We hit go live, and 2 minutes later, they had a delay. So we are here answering your guys' comments and questions live, so you can send those to us in the chat. Take us at the launch pad, and we'll be able to answer those for you. They've gone south a couple times, Fatal, but it's pretty commonly that they go to the east-ish. There's normally a little bit of a fluctuation, but generally it is to the east. If you're just joining us, though, take a moment, let us know where you're watching from in the chat. Love to welcome you here. Hey, Trapper, welcome. Great to have you here. We can definitely run through another breakdown on what we're expecting to see here today. If you're just joining us, you're joining us for our live coverage of NROL-199, launching from the Māhia Peninsula in New Zealand, an Electron rocket. Expected liftoff time now at 1:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 10:30 p.m. Pacific, or 5:30 a.m. UTC. Fun doing time zones at this time of night. So 5:30 a.m. UTC is what we're counting down to. And that's about what we know. It's a private mission for the Reconnaissance Office and the Australian Defence Agency, so we don't know the payload, the weight, the inclination, the launch location, the orbit. Pretty much all of that is concealed, and we will not be able to actually see a lot of the rocket after we see first stage separation. They will not be trying to recover the first stage either, as this is something they're just not going to be attempting to do here today. Hopefully we'll see something soon. Not so mad, great to have you here. Thanks so much. James is tuning in from Ireland. Great to have you here. We are now 28 minutes and counting until launch. Normally we would have a countdown on our screen. We're doing some upgrades to our systems. So unfortunately I don't have that for you guys tonight, but that should be back next couple days. But 28 minutes from now. Tricky numbers at 11 o'clock at night. Yes. Hey, Kevin. Great to see you. Thanks for jumping in. Appreciate being here. And Nona, welcome as well from North Carolina. Great to have you here. Gonna take a super quick commentary break here just for a minute or two, and I will be right back. But you're joining us for our, well, maybe not. Let's see. We might rewind that. Space Rocket Lab's going live in 6 minutes now. So they bumped that a little bit sooner here. So we're going to not take that break. We seems like they are continuing towards that new window of 1:30 a.m. Eastern, 5:30 a.m. UTC for the launch, 17:30 local time. That wind still looking like it will be clear. It'll be just getting into the evening for them, Trapper. So just around just before sunset. Thanks, Fred. Appreciate it. It's glad to be back in the main studio and getting everything going. We got some very big announcements we've been working on. We've been a little more quiet on the space news, and that's been for a reason. And I promise it will be worth it in a couple of weeks. I promise that. Just wait a couple more weeks, and there'll be a lot of stuff coming out. Fatal asking, did I see the space junk that landed in Australia? Yes, I did. So the debris that was found in Australia was looks like, from what we've seen, and we've looked at the videos and pictures of it, a portion of a crew cargo dragon trunk that was able to re-enter through the atmosphere, and some debris that remains from it. Something that generally we don't see a lot of debris kind of found of. It normally lands in the water, but a little bit looks like it slowed down enough that it floated to Australia and landed there. Luckily, no one was obviously injured with it, but a little bit of debris there. Something SpaceX is normally really good about is not leaving debris in space and deorbiting their debris into specific locations. So really interesting to see that debris found in Australia. But that was part of a trunk from a SpaceX Dragon capsule. Absolutely. Airvale, any chance of jellyfish? No jellyfish tonight, unfortunately. Not something we see with the Electron rocket there. It did look like one of the stabilizer fins off the trunk there, Trapper. You're absolutely right. That is what it looked like. That, and then possibly another one, or more of a rounded piece. There were two pieces. One that was skewered into the ground, and one that was, I believe, brought by another person there that they had found nearby, that they had dragged over. They didn't want to drag press all around. Well, we will get this all started here. Rocket Lab's going live, so we're going to patch them in here. right away. But if you are just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. You're joining us for our live launch coverage of NRL 199 launching from Launch Complex 1B in the Māhia Peninsula in New Zealand. Today's mission is for the National Reconnaissance Office and the Australian Defence Agency. So we don't know a ton about today's mission, but after a small wind delay, Rocket Lab is proceeding towards today's launch attempt in just over 23 minutes from now. We'll be listening in to Rocket Lab Mission Control. Today's mission will not be recovered for Electron. They will be having that first stage splashdown into the Pacific Ocean, and we likely won't see much of the second stage actually on camera due to the secrecy of today's mission. This is the 29th launch of Electron. It's the fastest turnaround in Rocket Lab history between two missions. They were trying to get it down to just 10 or 12 days. We've had a slightly longer delay in that, but still a record for them. This is the 28th mission for Rocket Lab with a customer, the 4th mission for the NRO, and the 86th orbital launch attempt of 2022. If it was your first time here, though, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad and here at TLP. It's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together. And if it's your first time here, take a moment, make sure you've engaged that subscribe button so you never miss another live launch coverage, space briefing, space news update, or exclusive one-on-one interview. If you have questions through today's stream, you can let us know in the chat. Tag us at the Launchpad, and we'll be working on answering those throughout today's stream on commentary and also in the chat. Also, make sure you join us over on our Twitter. That's where we live tweet space news as it happens. If you want to join an awesome space community, our Discord is open to everyone. And if you would like to help support what we do, you can do so through super chats or by hitting the join button here on YouTube, or even better yet, head on over to our Patreon. That's where 30% isn't taken from YouTube and goes into actually bringing you guys the best possible coverage of everything space. Our team is getting ready for Artemis 1 and the orbital flight test of Starship. We'll be bringing you full live coverage of both. The TLP studios heading down to Florida for a couple weeks for Artemis 1 to bring you countdown coverage to that, so we hope you'll join us for that as well. And last but not least, take a moment, head on over to our shop. Our back-to-school promo launched this morning. You can now get 15% off store-wide on every order without a promo code. It's just 15% off for the back-to-school season for the next couple of weeks. Global shipping is available, so definitely check that out. Get your SLS and Artemis gear ahead of launch window. Maybe get something for yourself or your little ones. So with that, we're going to patch in Rocket Lab Mission Control and get ready for their live coverage, and we'll be listening into them as we get ready for today's launch, now coming up to just 20 minutes away from liftoff. This is the second of two Electron missions that they're doing back-to-back, as we said, from their two adjacent pads at the Māhia Peninsula. Both missions, as I said, are for the National Reconnaissance Office, or NRO, who are collaborating with the Australian Defence Agency, or ADA. Today's mission will not be recovered and will be used for the mission's name is Antipodean Adventure. I'm probably saying that wrong, which is used to describe New Zealand or Australia by those in the Northern Hemisphere, is what they're saying for it today. The payload details and functions are secret, and this is due to providing information to the United States government and other partner governments and giving them the ability to assess international situations and tensions. In this place, the payload has been designed, built, and will be operated by the NRO in partnership, though, with the Australian Department of Defense. So we'll be seeing that here today. If you haven't yet, though, take a moment, engage that like button, and share out the broadcast. It really does help us out. Rocket Lab should be patching up their feed here in just a moment, and we'll patch them in and listen in to Rocket Lab Mission Control. John Ferris, can I buy your R2-D2? It's on this side. I can't let it go. I've had that since I was like 9, I want to say. That was from when the prequels, the last prequel that came out, which don't believe I saw the movie in theaters, but I got the R2-D2 and it was voice activated, which in 2004 and 5, having a voice activated toy was a really cool thing. Nowadays it's normal, but he's going to stay here. But check out the Lego one. It's still pretty cool too. Yep, nothing to see in California for this one, Kevin. Hopefully you'll have another Vandenberg launch here in the near future. Yeah, you're not going to see anything in Los Angeles, Fred, either. Electron's a smaller rocket, so a smaller visual sight, and it's launching from the Māhia Peninsula in New Zealand, most likely on an equatorial launch pattern. But again, even that is not confirmed as it is a secret mission. That is funny. Forgot about that. Ooh, that's cool, John. Again, if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat. We'll be answering those live. Just make sure you take us at the launch pad. We're just waiting for Rocket Lab to get underway, and we will be patching them in here shortly. Sanders saying there's 19-kilometer northwest winds in the area. That is definitely something they're going to have to be watching for today's mission to see if they will be able to continue. But they did start their stream and they did tweet it out. So it does look like they're positive. They are saying 5 minutes ago, Electron is being treated to a golden sunset at LC1, but wind conditions continue to be touch and go for today's launch. They're proceeding with the count, but a hold at T-minus 12 minutes to wait for calmer winds is possible. And at this time, we are now at T-minus 17 minutes. We should be having a go, no-go poll here right about now, which we were hoping to hear on air, but it looks like we won't be doing so. So they are keeping an eye on those wind conditions. Go question mark? Absolutely right, Kevin. That's exactly what we're looking at. We'll see how the wind conditions work. We got 17 minutes. If you are just joining us, though, welcome here to the launch pad and our live coverage of NROL 199, launching from New Zealand with Rocket Lab's Electron rocket. Their second of two back-to-back quick turnaround missions for the launch complex for the National Reconnaissance Office. On the right side of me, right side, that side, there we go, there we go. That is the live view from Rocket Lab, so we're just waiting for them to get underway so we can listen in to mission control. They are monitoring the wind conditions as we come down to 15 minutes to launch, possibly being a hold at the T-minus 12-minute mark. But hopefully we'll have some live views of the pad prior to that. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat. Take us at the launch pad. Really helps us out. We're trying to answer those live while we wait to see what coverage we're going to get from Rocket Lab here today. Kevin, is that a TLP Rocket Lab shirt? It is. That is the Rocket Lab Neutron shirt. You can pick that up over at the TLP shop. We don't have an Electron one yet. We probably should work on one. But this is the new vehicle that they are working on. And it has the big Neutron logo on the back. So you can definitely check that all out. Alexis, you're all by yourself tonight. Where's the rest of the team? I know Heather's here. I saw Heather in the chat. I know some of our team are resting. We've got a meeting in the morning around Artemis 1. So we are keeping an eye on that. So we'll see how things continue. Does look like Rocket Lab should be getting up and underway here. There we go. Now they're getting started running through their promo video. So we're going to listen in to Rocket Lab mission control as we count down T-minus 14 minutes until launch of an Electron rocket from Launch Complex 1B at the Māhia Peninsula, the second mission for Electron back-to-back for the National Reconnaissance Office in partnership with the Australian Defence Agency. If you have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat while we go through today's launch. We'll be typing in answers for you there, and you can continue to stay with us right here on the launch pad for today's live launch coverage. Let's listen in to Rocket Lab mission control as we count down T-minus 14 minutes until launch. Stay with us right here on the launch pad.
Good afternoon and hello from Rocket Lab Mission Control. It is just after 5 in the afternoon on August 2nd, and on your screen is our Electron rocket on the pad at Launch Complex 1 as it waits for liftoff of our 29th mission at 5:30 p.m. New Zealand local time. My name is Muriel Baker. Thank you for joining us for this national security mission for the National Reconnaissance Office, our second in a row for the NRO, launching from our second launch pad, Pad B, at LC1 in Māhia. I'll be with you through the broadcast of this mission from Rocket Lab's Mission Control Centre in Auckland, almost 600 kilometres from our launch site on the east coast of the North Island. We have a 2-hour launch window this evening that should afford us some beautiful evening views from Electron as it leaves the launch pad. All is tracking well on the launch readiness front as our team makes their way through final checks and procedures for today's mission. However, we do have strong gusts of wind coming through that may see us go into a hold at T-minus 12 minutes. We'll get that update during the operator poll coming up shortly. However, our mission today is NROL-199 for the National Reconnaissance Office, which we've nicknamed the Antipodean Adventure in reference to the partnership between the NRO and the Australian Department of Defence. We'll talk more about the NRO shortly, but as we approach that T12-minute mark, let's check in with the team in Mission Control for the Go No-Go poll. This is the final check-in from each of our operators in Mission Control and at the range that the specific system or part of the mission that they're responsible for is ready for launch. Let's listen in.
All operators, this is the LD on mission with the call for proceeding with the go, no-go sequence. So please note that we are still monitoring winds and looks like ground wings may be an issue at T0, so we may end up calling it before we get to the T0 point and recycling from there. But let's go ahead and proceed with the go, no-go sequence at this time. Stage.
Stage is go.
Avionics.
Avionics go.
GNC.
GNC is go.
Vcon.
Vcon is go.
T1.
T1 is go.
GC.
GC is go.
PLS.
PLS is go.
RSO.
RSO is go.
MET.
MET is monitoring winds, currently under caution as noted.
Copy that. MM.
MM is go.
SVMD.
SVMD go.
LD sub.
LD sub is go.
That completes the no-go sequence. We are T-minus 10 minutes and 50 seconds and counting. We are go for terminal count at T-minus 10 minutes. From this time, the 3-word hold procedure is in effect.
All right, you heard it there from Mission Control. It looks like the NROL-199 mission has been declared go for launch, as confirmed by our launch director there. So, coming up on today's flight, our flight today carries the national security payload designed, built and operated by the NRO, whose missions provide critical information to more than 500,000 users, including government agencies, the Department of Defence, lawmakers and decision makers. The NROL-199 mission will strengthen the office's ability to provide a wide range of timely intelligence information to national decision makers and intelligence analysts to protect the nation's vital interests and support humanitarian efforts worldwide. Here's more from the NRO.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. You're joining us for our live launch coverage of NROL 199 launching from the Māhia Peninsula in New Zealand. We are now at T-minus 9 minutes, 30 seconds and counting to lift off. Well, everything proceeding go through that go, no go poll, except for weather. Weather is something they are monitoring, so they are proceeding with a caution go, which is where they will continue through everything else and make a final determination on the wind conditions just prior to the launch itself. Today's mission, as you're seeing there, kind of a compilation of their videos showing today's mission for Rocket Lab and for the National Reconnaissance Office, which launches on ULA, Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy, Delta 4 Heavies, ULA's Delta 4 Heavy, and many others, and that's what they are doing here today on an Electron rocket. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage that like button, share out the broadcast as we continue. Jessica, thanks so much for becoming a general support member. Really appreciate your support there. We are now at T-minus 8 minutes, 30 seconds and counting, remaining in a cautionable go for flight. They are now in terminal count, which means at this time, if we hear hold for any reason, that is a hold in the flight, and they are into that final countdown. Let's listen back in to Rocket Lab Mission Control.
It's a private range dedicated to Electron launches and experienced launch personnel with strong launch and space heritage. We are primed and ready to fly for our customers whenever they need us to. And with NROL-199 on the pad with Electron and ready to fly today, we're looking forward to launching another national security mission for the NRO once again. A quick note that at the NRO's request, we will not be showing views of their payload, so we will be ending the webcast shortly after Electron's second stage separates the kick stage that will carry the payload to orbit. Now at T-minus 7 minutes and 39 seconds and counting, the conditions for launch are looking good. There have been no changes to that green status from the go-no-go poll we heard earlier, and the payload and Electron rocket remain healthy on the pad.
Everything continuing to look good for today's flight, except for that weather as we come down to T-minus 7 minutes, 10 seconds, and counting.
Today's mission is the second national security launch in a row that we're deploying for the NRO on Electron. The NROL-162 mission that you'll see in this video coming up shortly was launched just 3 weeks ago on July 13th from Launch Complex 1, Pad A, and was the NRO's third launch this year. After leaving the pad on that mission's nighttime launch, Electron completed a perfect pass through launch milestones, including max Q and stage separations, to quickly make its way to orbit. As well as building on the NRO's relationship with its ally and mission partner, the Australian Department of Defence, NROL-162 was the first demonstration this year of the NRO's capability to fly missions from overseas locations, with today's NROL-199 mission being the second. We've actually flown 2 other national security missions for the NRO on Electron before. The first was on our 11th Electron launch all the way back in January 2020, and the second was on our 12th mission later that same year. NROL-151 was the first dedicated launch for the NRO from a spaceport outside of the United States, and the first mission deployed to space under the NRO's rapid acquisition of a small rocket contract known as Razor. The following 3 NRO payloads, known as Razor 2, flew on a commercial rideshare mission alongside smallsats by NASA and the University of New South Wales Canberra Space, together with the Australian Air Force. And now, of course, we're here today with our 4th national security mission for the NRO from Launch Complex 1, scheduled to lift off in just a couple of minutes. Let's take a closer look, though, at the rocket supporting today's mission. At only 18 meters tall and slim enough that 2 people holding hands can wrap around its 1.2 meter diameter, Electron is a 2-stage rocket powered by 9 Rutherford engines at the bottom of the booster and a 10th space-optimized Rutherford attached to the second stage. Within the rocket's nose cone sits what is technically our 3rd stage, which we call the kick stage. This payload platform has an engine of its own called the Curie engine, and it was with this kick stage and an upgraded Curie that we created Photon, our interplanetary spacecraft that helped shepherd the Capstone satellite to the moon for NASA from this same pad just a few weeks ago. The white bands you can see on Electron are...
I'm going to interrupt her there. We have had a hold at T-minus 5 minutes, 20 seconds and counting. We're waiting for an update, likely due to the wind, but let's keep listening into mission control as we are now at holding at 5 minutes, 20 seconds.
Engines, which in the main stage chews through 12 tons of that propellant mix in just a few minutes of launch. With 2/3 of Electron's length and the majority of the rocket's cost made up in that first stage, it's this section of the rocket that we're focused on recovering and reflying on future missions to make Electron a reusable rocket. Those of you who have followed our recovery escapades for a while will know that red on the rocket's interstage usually means recovery, but to integrate recovery hardware and systems into our Electron production, we are starting to push more and more recovery-ready rockets down the line, which is why today's rocket looks like a recovery vehicle, but due to customer requirements, we will not be recovering the first stage from today's mission. Stay tuned for details about our next recovery mission, though. That event is coming up later this year.
LD avionics mission.
Go ahead, avionics.
Sequence 69, avionics terminal abort checks complete.
Roger, thank you.
We're holding at T-minus 5 minutes, 20 seconds, waiting for an update from Mission Control on the state of the hold. Whether they will recycle and try again. Always safety first, especially due to winds. As she said, 2 people can hug around this rocket. That's a very small rocket, so winds are much less tolerable with an Electron.
We've had an update from Mission Control that we are in a hold due to high winds, as we knew might be the case today. The team in Mission Control have recycled the clock to T-minus 12 minutes, and we are waiting there in that hold. We'll bring you more updates as we get them from Mission Control.
And there we have it now, holding at T-minus 12 minutes. They're recycling that clock, and we'll try again. That's at the T-minus 12 minute mark. That's when they do another go, no go poll to go back into terminal count, and we'll hopefully see these winds maybe subside. They still have a little bit of time left in today's launch window. The launch window itself open from, let me pull it up here, open from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern, so we still have 90 minutes left in today's launch window that they still could go for an attempt, but they're going to be keeping an eye on that and seeing that they will be able to go for an attempt safely. As always, safety
All operators,
first.
this is the LD moving to a recycle to a T-minus 12 minute hold point.
And that was one of the things we did hear from them when I was saying that 2 people can hug around this rocket, so this rocket can get moved around quite a bit more easily compared to some of the larger rockets, and that's why these winds are a little bit harder for Electron to actually launch from. So that's what we are seeing here. Carlos, awesome to see you. Inspired24, great to have you in here. Yeah, really skinny cat. You can hug around it, couple people. It's a very small rocket. To the fact of when it's on its side and on wheels, you can with one hand just push it. It's not fueled, obviously, but it's quite cool because it's quite a small rocket. It's really interesting to see that they can move it around. Tapper, plus if they get that sun down over the horizon, it'll be an awesome sight. It's always good to see a night launch, but a sunset launch, just think, we would have been launching now is when we should have launched. I mean, that would have been a nice video shot there as well. If you guys have questions, you can send those to us in the chat. Take us at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those live for you throughout the evening here today as we continue in a hold at 12 minutes, 20 seconds. Their overlays look like they're getting ready for the actual launch sequence, and so do their cameras. Looks like they had some automation set up there, but we are still in a hold. We're waiting for them to recycle that clock to 12 minutes, and we'll hopefully hear an update there. Joe, thank you so much for that super chat. Really appreciate it. Appreciate supporting us in that way. Dakota, make sure you eat at Moonlight Diner in Titusville after the SLS launch. It's been there on A1A since Gemini. That is awesome, Dakota. I will save that for us and our team. We'll definitely try to check that out while we are there. For those of you not knowing, Artemis 1 is just a couple weeks away from launch, August 29th. So we are now in launch month of Artemis 1 and SLS. Super exciting to see the SLS finally have a launch window. We'll be bringing the entire TLPD mostly down to Florida for it. But we're also going to put out there, we're going to have a TLP meetup. But we want to hear from you guys. So if you click on our channel's logo and go to our channel page and then click on community, we have a poll. We want to know, 1, would you guys come to the meetup in Florida? Will you be there in Florida and be interested in coming to that? And 2, in the comments of that post, we want to hear from you. What would you guys want to do? for the meetup. We want, what type of activity do you want to just like hang out in a park or things like that? We want to hear from you there, or you can even drop it into the chat as well. We would love to hear from you guys what you guys would like to do at the very first TLP meetup. And yeah, they haven't reset that clock as of yet, John, but internally they have. So we'll see what happens there. Justin, SLS is unmanned. Yes. So Artemis 1 SLS will be unmanned. Unmanned with mannequins. So there's 3 mannequins on board, and they're full of sensors and stuff. Artemis 2 will have 4 astronauts on board, 3 Americans, 1 Canadian. Yes. And they will go into lunar orbit before they come home. They will not land. And then Artemis 3 will carry the first person of color and the first female to the lunar surface. 2 will land and 2 will stay in orbit. Thanks so much for being here, White Rabbit. No worries for joining late there. We are here for the launch of NROL-199, which means we don't know what it is. It's for the National Reconnaissance Office, so that's what we don't have here. David, you bet hotels are being crazy expensive for that launch. We booked hotels 2 months ago, and they were already selling out. So I will say, if you are coming down to Florida for the Artemis 1 launch, keep in mind we're not going to see another one of these launch in 2 years. So if you can make it and can do it financially responsibly, definitely try to do so. It's going to be an amazing thing. On top of, we get to hang out as a TLP community after the launch somewhere on one of the days and stuff. Definitely it's going to be an amazing thing to watch. The brand new super heavy rocket launch. We're excited to see that. But keep in mind, you may have to drive further to be able to find somewhere to stay. And you may have to deal with a lot longer traffic. So definitely add extra hours to your plans on how to get around the facility. Tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, Kennedy Space Center opens their ticket sales for the on-property launch stuff. Kennedy most likely will not have their property open to people without tickets. So if you don't have a ticket, they will have roadblocks. That's what they've done in the past. They'll have roadblocks further out, and you won't be allowed through those roadblocks unless you have valid tickets. Even annual pass holders, you need valid launch tickets to be able to be in the parking lot, in the visitor center, or at the Saturn V facility, because somehow the Saturn V facility is open for the first SLS. So keep that in mind. When we looked at hotels, they were expensive, but they were expensive for like what hotels are. We didn't see too much of a difference there. Thanks so much for subscribing there, Mike. Really appreciate it. Today's mission is for the National Reconnaissance Office. Hermansaya, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. What happened to the Chinese rocket? That was the core stage of the rocket that came back down. That's a normal thing that happens with the Long March 5. They don't they don't have control, so they have a controlled kind of crash landing per se. But we'll see what happens there. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely looking at Daytona and north. Everyone looks south, Titusville, Melbourne, and south. But look north, Daytona, or even into Orlando. Looks like there were still some spaces available. But Titusville is going to be booming. When is Artemis 3, says Davey. Artemis 3, they are now targeting 2025. For 2024, we'll have the crew around the moon. 2025, we will have landing on the moon. Yeah, me too, John. I'm like, sign me up. I'll go as the Canadian, but glad to see a Canadian on board for that. Just catching up on your guys' chat here. If you guys have questions, keep sending those in the chat. We'll work on answering those. We do remain in a hold at T-minus 12 minutes and holding, waiting for an update there. Susan, thanks for joining. Welcome from San Diego. Boston from Vandenberg, welcome. Jedi, that's awesome. It'd be great to connect with you and them. We'd love to do some interviews while we're down there with people actually working on the program, that are like the people that are behind the scenes that are actually doing stuff. So if you wanted to connect with them and share that, there's an interview opportunity depending what they're doing, we'd consider doing one, which would be awesome. Artemis 1 payload. That's a great question from Ken. On the payload, there are 12, I believe 10 or 12 CubeSats that will launch from the inner stage of Artemis 1. And then the rest of the payload is all science equipment. So different sensors and things like that they are going to be taking to just test Orion. They've done all the testing they can with Orion and with SLS on the ground. We've had one test flight of Orion back in 2014. Yes, it's been that long since we last flew an Orion capsule. And that launched on a Delta IV Heavy. So now we have to do a test launch, and that's what this is. So lots of sensors to make sure that it is safe for astronauts. Most of the systems will be activated for life support, but not everything. So there will be a few sensors that they won't get to test until actually Artemis 2. Nick, will it launch along the East Coast or straight out over the Atlantic? We do not have an exact yet, but it should be more eastwardly. It's not going into an ISS orbit. It's going to go more, I believe, equator and then out to the boot. So it should be more straight east. Ben, any idea how long the hold will last? Well, we know they have an hour and 22 minutes left in their launch window, and they're holding it 12 minutes. So they've got an hour and 10 minutes they could sit here. Realistically, about an hour and 5, because they have to do a go, no go poll. Excuse me, it's getting late. They got about an hour and 10 to do their go, no go poll and start that sequence to resume the count to make the window. So we got a little bit of time. I would patch in mission control, but they're playing music. So we're waiting to see some sort of larger update on the screen. Mars, is there any chance China will put a person on the moon before Artemis 3? Only if they have a super heavy launch rocket somewhere hidden that no one's seen on satellite. So, pretty unlikely. When will be the next Vandenberg launch? Let me check. I think we have one in later August. Coming up. Let me double check that for you here. Vandenberg. I know I did see. We have one that is sometime in August, but we don't have a date yet. So you'll have one this month. So stay tuned on that. Sorry to hear that, Jedi. Great to have you here, Grandizer. Sorry if I said that wrong. Appreciate it. Yes, it is a wind hold. That's what they're remaining in at T-minus 12 minutes and holding. Diggity, what is the cost difference between SpaceX and RocketLab? Not even comparable. Electron is smaller than what Falcon 1 would have been. Type of thing. So, pretty impossible. Like, Electron could launch... Excuse me. I'll need a coffee. Electron could launch two... like, kind of two sats on it. Falcon 9 launches like 130 at a time. So, can't really even compare, but seeing an absolutely beautiful sunset. That's awesome, Fred. You can see them, though? Vandenberg's normally foggy. I know you can hear them most of the time. No Pepsi, but hopefully water will help. The launch window for today's Electron is from 1 to 3 a.m. Eastern Time, or from 5 to 7 p.m. local time, and we are now 41 minutes into that 2-hour window. Susan, hope we get a heads up on Vandenberg. Oh yeah, you'll get generally we've been seeing about a week to 10 days notice. I think a lot of things are staying kind of quiet. That was That's interesting. RocketLab just reset their countdown to 3 hours 18 minutes and counting. So we're waiting to hear any sort of update on why they just did that. We're hearing music still, because they don't have a launch window for that. So it is technically counting. I'll hide my camera here. If you look at just, not that one. If you look at just this screen, just below where I was, it now says 3 hours, 17 minutes, 56 seconds, and counting. I'm not going to be awake, to be honest, in that time possum either. That's outside their launch window. So I want to say that that's someone pushing the wrong button. Because most likely they would just end their stream and then do another one at that point. So bear with us. Better make some coffee. There we go. They reset it. 12 minutes and holding. Yeah, someone just pushed the wrong button. We're still getting music. So there we go. We're back to the T-minus 12 minutes and holding. Just a little bit of excitement there. But yes, we are still in.
See, holding a T-minus 12 minutes at this time, and we're looking for a window of opportunity with the ground winds to be favorable. So stand by for commencement of the count and a new T0 time.
So they're continuing to observe those winds, and we'll hopefully be seeing a new T0 here in the near future. They'll go into a go-no-go poll again to decide whether they will resume today's count. Nick, really great point. Yes, the Electron is similar to Virgin Orbit's 747. They do have some similarities in what they can carry, absolutely. At this time, we can see them. We're at 12 minutes and holding, so if we add that to the clock, they've got about an hour and 5 left in the window before they will be able to actually, before they would run out of time. Mars, I know it's a little off topic, but do you know of any weather satellites with a good view of Iceland in the case of the volcano erupts? There are lots. There are probably dozens that would be able to capture that. So it really depends. We hope not to see any more Iceland volcano major eruptions. I got family there. My family's from Iceland, actually, part of them. But there are. The entire world is covered in weather satellites, so no worries there. And yes, David, Thursday is going to be a very busy ULA, then Blue Origin, then SpaceX. Absolutely. We will be live for all of those, so we hope you'll join us live here for all 3 of those launches. We're going to take a quick commentary break here and be back with another update, but you're watching our live launch coverage of NROL 199 launching from the Māhia Peninsula in New Zealand. Stay with us right here on the launch pad.
Thanks for joining us for today's Antipodean Adventure launch. As we mentioned earlier, we are in a T-minus 12-minute hold for weather at the moment as we wait for ground level winds to calm down. So while we wait to launch a rocket, you could get started on launching your career with Rocket Lab. We have open roles across the US, New Zealand and Canada. Check out what your career could look like.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. We are remaining at T-minus 12 minutes and holding in today's flight. Weather is still remaining a no-go due to wind conditions, but they are still hopeful. They will have another attempt here today. We are now coming up at 1 hour into today's launch window, so we have about 45 minutes left until they will run out of time to begin to resume their countdown procedures, because it takes a few minutes to resume the countdown. So we are watching that clock closely. About 45 minutes left for them to be able to resume, but an hour left in their launch. Stay with us. We'll be back with more updates right here on the Launchpad. And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. You're joining us for our live launch coverage of NROL 199, launching from Launch Pad 1B at the Māhia Peninsula in New Zealand at RocketLab's Launch Complex. We remain in a hold at T-minus 12 minutes due to wind in the region. As you can see there on your screen, that venting just being thrown away from the rocket on the side. You can also see some of the hosing wiggling in the wind there as well. They're still having high levels of wind at this time and are continuing to remain in a hold at 12 minutes. The launch window is open for another 45 minutes. And if we take into account 12 minutes plus 3 or 4 minutes for another go, no go poll and to resume the count, we've got about 30 minutes left in today's window that they'd actually be able to resume the count in to be able to meet the end of today's launch window. So we're keeping an eye on that. They're continuing to keep all the tanks fully fueled and topped up, ready for today's flight. Obviously, everything is still charging because it's all connected still to the pad, so the batteries are fine as well, as we remain at T-minus 12 minutes and holding for today's launch attempt. Should they not launch today, they would scrub, but we hope we don't have to see that here today. But scrubs are always better than ruds, so we would hope to rather see that than them risk these very high winds. As you can see, those are very strong winds, and this is a very small rocket, so there is that risk if they were to launch in these winds that the rocket could be blown, ultimately leading to a failed mission, which is not something that we want. But in the next 30 minutes, we need to see them begin at least talking about resuming the count. Otherwise, they will run out of time in today's window. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending them in the chat. Tag us at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those. Also, make sure to head on over to the TLP shop. We've got our back-to-school promo on right now. You can get 15% off everything store-wide. It auto applies at your checkout. No promo code needed. And it's a great time to be able to order your Artemis 1 and Starship gear ahead of those orbital flight tests later this month. Right now, for North America shipping and some of Europe, we're saying if you order in the next week, you should still have it in time for Artemis 1. So definitely check that out. If you're interested, great way of helping to support what we do, but also get some really awesome space gear to start conversations in your own neighborhood. As we remain at T-minus 12 minutes, we're waiting for updates from Rocket Lab. Stay with us right here on the launch pad.
inception since Electron first took to the skies in 2017. Since then, Electron has delivered reliable access to orbit for civil, defence, national security and commercial customers. And as we wait for winds to cooperate with today's launch, let's take a closer look at the rocket that will carry NROL-199 to space, and also delve into the Lunar Photon spacecraft that recently set a satellite on course to the moon for NASA.
And as we remain at T-minus 12 minutes and holding, they're filling some time with a few of their promo videos. No real update other than that we still remain in today's hold. At this time, there are 40 minutes left at the window, left in today's window, 39 minutes now left in today's window. So we've got only about 25 minutes or so to see them start resuming that countdown to be able to reach the end of today's window. White Rabbit, what's the scroll on the bottom of the screen represent? Thanks. So on the bottom of the screen, that is one of our ways we like to thank all of our TLP members. Those are all of our people that have become members of the Launchpad here on YouTube or on Patreon. And as one of the perks that you can get, there's different perks at different levels. And we'll be rolling out a few other ways of we're showing thanks to some member levels as well here in the next week or two. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But yeah, that's just one of the way we thank our members for helping us be able to bring the best possible coverage of space that we can. We really can't do this without your guys' support. We're working on expanding our team now, not only in North America, but around the world, launching a Europe team, hopefully getting some people down in New Zealand, on Australia as well, to bring you guys the best possible coverage. If you guys would like to see your name down there, you can hit that join button. It starts at just $1.99 a month for our VIP spectators, or head on over to patreon.com/thelaunchpad, as there YouTube doesn't take their 30%. But let's listen back in to RocketLab Mission Control.
28 missions with Electron done and dusted. Will tonight make it number 29? We'll have to wait and see if the winds cooperate. We're still in that T-minus 12-minute hold as we wait for those winds to die down. The window, though, does remain open until 7 a.m. UTC, so stick with us.
And there we go. Little update there that they are continuing to hold. Still holding out hope that winds will clear enough for today, but at this point, it's looking pretty tight. It's been an hour and a half of high winds, so we'll wait to see what happens for it here today. You can see that ice being broken off, not just falling away from the side of the rocket, but really just being blasted off of the side of the rocket in these winds, really making it clear just how strong these winds are. I'm actually quite surprised to say that they haven't just scrubbed for this evening, and we'll try again. But we will we'll wait and see what happens. But at this point, yeah, we're looking 20 minutes, I would say, until the point where I would even call it a scrub, just because they'd be too tight in their window. But we'll wait and see. Officially, they have about 25 minutes if they can resume that countdown clock. T-minus 12 minutes and holding. Stay with us right here on the Launchpad as we wait for more updates from RocketLab on whether they will attempt to launch today's NROL-199 mission in New Zealand. you so much for Brett for becoming a VIP spectator there. Really appreciate that support. And there we go. We have an update on the screen. That countdown clock has resumed counting. T-minus 13 minutes, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, and counting. Good sign that they're going to attempt to resume today's count. So we'll keep an eye out and listen in to RocketLab Mission Control.
Today, so be ready for that possibility.
Waiting to have more of an update there. It sounds like they're going to go into another go, no go poll here as we come down to a possible launch attempt. But a good sign to see that countdown officially resume and that we may see another launch window attempt here. Take a moment, share out the broadcast, let people know that we're going for another count here. But this time we are now T-minus 12 minutes, 40 seconds and counting until liftoff of NROL-199 from Pad 1B in New Zealand. That will set us at a T0 of 20 minutes left in the window. So it'll be 6:40 a.m. local time will be, or 6:40 p.m. local time, will be the targeted T0 time at this time. T-minus coming up at T-minus 12 minutes and counting. Should be hearing possibly another go, no go poll at this time to go into that terminal count. So we'll wait to see if we hear any more updates.
All operators, this is the LD on mission, proceeding with the go, no go sequence stage.
Stage is go.
Avionics,
Avionics is go.
GNC,
GNC is go.
Beacon,
Beacon is go.
T1,
T1 is go.
GC,
GC is go.
PLS,
PLS is go.
RSO,
RSO is go.
MET.
Met is monitoring the winds and hoping for the best.
Very good, thank you, sir. MM,
MM is go.
SVMD,
SVMD is go.
LD sub.
LD sub is go.
Go, no go sequence is complete. We are now T-minus 11 minutes, 14 seconds and counting. We are go for terminal count at T-minus 10 minutes. From this time, the 3-word hold procedure is in effect.
Well, there you go. A positive update there from Mission Control as we hope for the best with those wins. The clock has been restarted and a new T0 time set for 6:38 p.m. local time or 6:38 a.m. UTC. So onward with launch for NROL-199.
And just like that, we are back at it. T-minus 10 minutes, 30 seconds and counting. The range and mission control have all given go, except for the weather guy. He's like, we're holding out hope. So they're going to go for another try here today. Counting down T-minus 10 minutes, 20 seconds and counting until that next liftoff attempt of the Electron rocket. Now, for those of you that are fans of Rocket Lab and follow along, normally a shiny silver Electron rocket with a big red stripe across the inner stage there means they're going for recoverability.
on mission.
LDGC.
Yes, sir. Please proceed with sequence 56, pad terminal checks.
Copy, proceeding with sequence 56.
But at this time, they will not be attempting to recover today's flight. See, great question from Alexis. 3-word hold procedure is in effect.
LDGC on mission.
Go ahead, GC.
What is that? That means that at any point from T-minus 10 minutes and counting or on, if they need to stop for any reason, if anyone has any red flag in their system, they have to say hold, hold, hold across all nets, and everyone goes into an immediate hold sequence to safe the rocket. Then they review what's wrong. Prior to this, they could say, hey, I'm looking at something, review it, keep going. But now, because we're in terminal count, we're too close to launch, hold, 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 then review. And that's what we will be seeing here. We're going to keep listening into Rocket Lab Mission Control as we count down T-minus 9 minutes and counting until launch. If they go into another hold at this point, that will most likely conclude today's launch attempt. So if we hear that,
The team
hold.
started bright and
Let's listen
early
in.
this morning to get Electron prepped for launch. As we approach our new T0, here's a bit more about what goes into launch day for Rocket Lab.
So they're going to play another video here as we come down T-minus 8.5 minutes and counting for today's launch attempt. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage that like button, share out the broadcast. It really does help us out. Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of ice there falling off the side of the rocket. Normally we see a little bit, but the winds are really breaking off some of that ice. So we'll hope to have some more stable winds here in 8 minutes, so they'll be able to go into that launch attempt. Around the 5-minute mark, that's when I would expect to see another hold begin for weather. If the winds are still too high, that's probably when they do their final weather check for the flight. So we're going to be keeping it on. Hello, people. Where's it going to land? The first stage will crash into the ocean, and then the rest will go up into space. We're T-minus 7 minutes, 40 seconds, and counting. If you guys have questions, you can send those to us in the chat by taking us at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those live throughout the rest of today's live broadcast. Now, it's going to be a quick one, as this is a national reconnaissance mission, which means we do not get a lot of live views after first stage separation. We won't see stage deployments or payload deployment because it is a classified payload. So it will be a rather quick mission, but we're glad to see another launch attempt going here in T-minus 7 minutes and counting from Launch Pad 1B at the Māhia Peninsula in New Zealand.
A little bit of a 2-for-1 there. Let's try that again. Here's what goes into the lead up to launch.
Looks like they played the wrong video there, but as we come down T-minus 6.5 minutes and counting, you can see some recaps of today's prep for today's mission. And here, we were talking earlier about the size of the rocket. This is a really great example. There's 4 people pushing this whole rocket out. First stage, second stage, the payload, everything on board. They just roll it out down the road and prepare for flight. White Rabbit, just don't see a launch today. Any idea what speed winds would scrub? Rocket Lab hasn't put out that number specifically itself on what the wind speeds are, but it's something we'll try to research on it. I think it depends on a few factors, the weight of the payload and things like that. But great question there, White Rabbit. There is obviously a cutoff of what they count as a go, no go. And then there's always a little bit of range. There's sometimes a range depending on the payload weight of what they're able to see. We're keeping a close eye on that countdown clock. We're coming down to where we held, and we've passed through where we had a hold previously. So we are continuing T-minus 5 minutes, 15 seconds until flight. Good sign that they may be going for the attempt here today, and we'll wait to hear more on the current wind conditions. Thanks so much, Fred. I appreciate it. Really appreciate that support. Try to do our best. We are now at T-minus 5 minutes and counting.
With about 4 minutes left on the clock, we are quickly coming up to the switch over to Electron's flight computers to run the rest of the countdown to liftoff. Our mission operators will call out status checks from their stations as the launch director keeps an eye on launch procedures before counting us down to liftoff of today's Antipodean adventure. Let's open up mission control comms and listen into the final count. I'll be back with you shortly after liftoff.
On mission.
LD, LSO, go ahead.
Yes, we're looking for your go on winds.
Go from LSO.
Copy that. Thank you, sir.
I was not expecting to hear that. That is a go from LSO on wind conditions. We are a go for flight. T-minus 3 minutes and
All operators
counting.
is the LD on mission. From now on, there should be no red flags on your critical LCCs. VCON LD on mission.
LD VCON.
Yes, sir. Confirm all expected flight computer as goes are green.
Confirmed as goes are green.
VCON lock auto sequence and confirm.
Auto sequence is locked.
We are go for auto sequence start at T-minus 2 minutes. LD is go for launch.
And there's the launch director giving his go for launch. T-minus 2 minutes, 30 seconds and counting. Let's see a go, no go in the chat, something we always do here. And if you haven't yet, take a moment, engage that like button. And hit the subscribe button.
We aboard the count once again. Sorry, the winds were not good here at the end, so we're going to recycle around. Let's go to our abort sequence once again. Sequence 68. GC LD on mission. Please secure LD on pad and enable ECS.
Securing launch vehicle on pad, enabling ECS.
All missions. This is the LD on mission. I should say we had to go to 67. No standby. And avionics LD on mission.
LD avionics.
Yes, sir. Please proceed with avionics terminal abort checks.
Commencing sequence 69.
And stage LD on mission.
LD stage.
Yes, sir. Please proceed with sequence 70 stage terminal abort checks.
Copy proceeding sequence 70.
The vehicle is on external power.
And
Now, operators, we're going to get through the abort sequence and recycle back around for one more attempt within our launch window. So appreciate you working through our recycle, your abort checks and recycle smartly.
So we stopped at T-minus 2 minutes, 22 seconds. The winds got out of the line there. And you can actually see the strong back actually did retract in preparation for today's launch. We were that deep into the count. You can now see that cable fully extended. And that means that's how close they were. We're back in a hold. We only have 22 minutes left into today's window. So if they recycle to T-minus 12 minutes, they have 10 minutes to recycle and be ready for another attempt. And they want to go for another attempt for that last second of the window. Let's listen in to RocketLab Mission Control.
Unfortunately, as you heard, we have had another hold on the pad due to the weather. Let's stick with mission control while we learn if we can make another attempt this evening.
And again, they've updated their countdown clock. I'll hide myself for a second. Back to 3 hours and 22 minutes. This is not real. It's not a 3-hour recycle.
Avionics mission.
Go ahead, avionics.
Sequence 69, avionics terminal abort checks complete.
Roger, thank you, sir.
They only have 10 minutes left to recycle, not even now, down to 9 minutes to begin their recycle from the T-minus 12-minute mark. That's when they are going to be able to do another count. They're going to try to squeeze another one in here, but it is going to be very tight for them to be able to make today's launch. Today we're watching RocketLab launch a mission for the National Reconnaissance Office in partnership with the Australian Space Agency. It is a classified mission, so we don't know the weight. We don't know the payload. We don't know where it's going, what orbit, or what inclination. But we do hope to have good wind conditions. But at this time, they are not looking so favorable. With only 8 minutes left for teams to be able to resume the countdown to make into today's window. So they're not directly pushing the window, Ben. That's a great comment there. They're not pushing the window. They had a 2-hour launch window. So just like we see with a lot of rockets, sometimes you have an instantaneous launch window, which means you have to launch at that exact second for the speed and everything to be able to get to where you're going. Other rockets have a larger window because they're deploying a payload that doesn't have a specific place it needs to be at a specific second, but it has a range. And that's why they have a larger window. And that's what we're seeing here today. They had a 2-hour window. But at this time, we are now 20 minutes left in today's window for today's launch. They generally will recycle to the 12-minute mark, which means we now are down to 8 minutes left for them to resume today's count. If you haven't yet, though, take a moment, engage that subscribe button so you never miss another live launch coverage, space news update, space briefing, or exclusive one-on-one interview. We're going to bring you full live coverage of Artemis 1 and the orbital flight test of Starship right here on the launch pad. Possum, squeeze it in, please. That's literally what the guy said. He's like, we're going to squeeze another one in. I was like, okay, we'll see what happens. So they're going to go for another attempt here, hopefully in the next, we're not long, 19 minutes or so. And they'll be out of time on the window. So they have recycled the clock to 12 minutes officially on the clock. And they are holding at T-minus 12 minutes. So we have a few minutes left. We don't have an exact number, Michael, on the wind conditions, on what they can do. But it's because of how small of a rocket it is quite low. But as you can see right below me, that is where their countdown clock is. We're getting ours reset. We should have that back for you guys in the next couple of days. But currently at T-minus 12 minutes and holding. It's one of two. So they launched one payload for the NRO a couple weeks ago. This is the sister launch. So they do want to get it up there as quickly as they can. But if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. We are in the second hold of the evening, going for the third launch attempt of today's NROL-199 launch from the Māhia Peninsula in New Zealand, waiting on wind conditions and hopefully seeing teams enter another final countdown in just a couple of minutes. So stay with us right here on the launch pad. And there we have it. The countdown clock is ticking. T-minus 12 minutes, 40 seconds, and counting until another launch attempt of Electron for the NROL-199 mission. They're going to try this one more time. Only 17 minutes left in the window. At T-minus 12 minutes, we expect to have another go, no-go poll. And we will be waiting to see what happens there. Winds right now, we're looking 30 to 35 kilometers around the site, but they're going to be having to watch the gusts, and they do have to watch those upper level winds as well, as those are generally more of the issue. So we are keeping an eye on all of those, and we'll hopefully have another update here from the mission control team next few seconds as they go for another go, no-go poll. Let's listen in. It looks like we might not be getting audio from them on this poll, but they do look to be appearing to be in the poll. Let's see. While we wait, let's see a go, no-go poll from you guys in the chat. What you guys think. Do you think it's going to go? Final launch attempt here. T-minus 11 minutes and counting. Teams going through that.
LD, I'm sorry, this is the LD on mission with the go, no-go sequence stage.
Stage is go.
Avionics.
Avionics is go.
GNC.
GNC is go.
VCon.
Vicon is go.
T1,
T1 is go.
GC,
GC is go.
PLS,
PLS is go.
RSO,
RSO is go.
MET,
And Met is monitoring the winds and hoping they see a trend on the downside.
very good, thank you, sir. MM,
MM is go.
SVMD,
SVMD go.
LD sub.
LD sub is go.
Concludes the go, no-go sequence. We are T-minus 10 minutes and 20 seconds and counting. We are go for terminal count at T-minus 10 minutes. From this time, the 3-word hold procedure is in effect.
Okay, so with our third final go or no-go poll, we are at T-minus 10 minutes and counting. We are going to give launch one final attempt this evening before the window closes at 7 p.m. New Zealand local time. Let's listen into mission control if we can make that launch attempt.
Well, that was quite the go no go poll. Sounds like he might have misread
LDGC on mission.
the clock and thought he had an extra minute, so they rushed through
Stage
it.
1 igniter pressure is verified. Hydraulic pressure is verified. Pad terminal checks complete.
Roger, thank you, GC.
Pad checks are complete. Going through terminal count checks. It's a very interesting no-go poll, but we are in terminal count. T-minus 9 minutes, 15 seconds, and counting. Let's see if they can do this one more time. Still looks very, very windy in comparison to what we've seen normally. So, yeah, let us know in the chat. Do you think it... Let's just do a really quick poll.
Avionics, this is LD on mission.
LD avionics.
Yes, sir. Please proceed with sequence 57, avionics terminal checks.
Copy. Standard switch type out for flight.
I want to hear from you guys in the poll. Will the rocket launch today? There's almost 600 of you watching.
Stage 1 and Stage 2 high
See what you guys
batteries
think.
are ready for flight.
All the teams showing the rocket's ready. Everything's ready.
LD on
Payload
mission.
and rocket's ready.
LD stage.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Please proceed with sequence 58, stage terminal checks.
Copy, proceeding sequence 58.
GCLD on mission.
LDGC.
Yes, sir. Please proceed with sequence 59, launch pad ready.
Proceeding with the launch pad ready sequence.
T-minus 8 minutes and counting. You can see on this angle that strong back retracted earlier. It went back up, and we will be expecting to watch that retract again here.
All engine bleeds are nominal and all engines are ready. LD stage mission.
Go ahead, stage.
Stage terminal checks complete.
Roger, thank you, stage.
Engines are ready. You guys are making this easy. Literally 100 votes, and it is tied
avionics mission.
50-50.
Go ahead, avionics.
Sequence 57 avionics terminal checks complete.
Roger, thank you, avionics.
They are continuing through the count, coming down T-minus 7 minutes, 15 seconds and counting. We're going to be watching that weather all the way down to those last minutes as when they can call a scrub for the launch. This is the last one. We hear hold for any reason. We are done for today, but you guys making it really tight, 50-50 there in the poll. We want to hear from you. Do you think they will launch here today as we count down 7 minutes and counting? I personally don't think it's going to go. It looks really windy, but I don't have the weather data in front of me, so we'll wait to see what happens. It'd be nice, though. We've been here for 2.5 hours. It'd be nice to see a launch this evening. If not, we get to do it all again tomorrow or the next day. T-minus 6 minutes, 30 seconds, and counting. If it's your first time here, though, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad. Here at TLP, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together, and this is our live launch coverage of RocketLab Electron's NROL-199 mission from New Zealand. If you haven't yet, take a moment, follow us over on Twitter, where we live tweet space news updates as they happen. Join our space community over on Discord. Everyone's welcome, and it's free to join. And if you'd like to help support us on what we do, consider sending a super chat. hitting that join button here on YouTube, or better yet, head on over to our Patreon. YouTube doesn't take a percentage of that, so head on over to Patreon to help support what we do. And it's our back to school promo, so head on over to the launchpad.store, get 15% off of everything, auto applied at checkout, no promo code needed, and that's for everyone and anyone. You don't need student ID to do so. Let's listen back into Rocket Lab Mission Control as we count down T-minus 5 minutes, 30 seconds, and counting. And that looks like a hold to me at 5 minutes, 15 seconds. That is it. We'll wait for official confirmation, but that countdown clock has stopped. But the camera feed is still rolling. So I think they're going to be calling here, but that does not look like a positive for the looks for today's mission to be continuing. I can hide myself again here. 5 minutes, 15 seconds, and holding again. The launch window ends in 9 minutes. No possibility to recycle. So that, to me, would say scrub, but we will await for the official confirmation from Rocket Lab. Still saying hold on their screen. When they've updated it, they went from go to flight back to hold. But that should go to scrub here momentarily once they safe the rocket. They do have to go through their safing procedures. Takes about a minute or so to do so. And then we should have an update. But most likely the winds, again, getting in the way of today's flight. They've been monitoring those for the last 2 hours. It was a 2-hour launch window. They've exhausted an hour and 53 minutes of that window. No possibility to recycle again, as recycle takes 12 to 13 minutes at minimum. So they are going to be running out of time for today's launch window. As we wait for an official update, a few launches to put on your radar. August 4th, we'll hope to have you back here on the launch pad for a triple launch coverage day. We have a launch of an Atlas V from Cape Canaveral with a early mission detection satellite. We have a launch of New Shepard, launching 6 more people up to suborbital space as suborbital astronauts. And we have the launch of the Korean Pathfinder lunar orbiter from Cape Canaveral on a Falcon 9 as well. We also have coming up a demo flight for India on August 7th, a Soyuz on August 9th, Starlink's back on August 9th as well, and we are, of course, counting down to Artemis 1 on August 29th, and there'll probably be a few more launches in there. No updates as of yet from them, but we look like we might be getting an update here momentarily. T-minus 5 minutes, 15 seconds, and holding. Waiting for an update. Let's listen in to Mission Control.
Unfortunately, we've just heard from Mission Control that we are going to stand down from today's launch attempt due to the high ground winds. We did try our best. We have plenty of days remaining in the window though, so we'll be back on the pad soon to send NROL-199 to space. Keep an eye on our social media channels for launch updates. Thank you for sticking with us tonight. This is Mission Control, signing off.
And with that, they have concluded today's mission attempt. No longer going for a launch attempt here today for NROL-199, but great to hear they have more days left in the window. No official number yet, so they'll be taking a look at weather. Make sure you follow us over on our Twitter, where we'll be live tweeting updates as we get them from Rocket Lab on the conditions of weather in the next launch attempt. But most importantly, and I think a few people said in the chat, Ben, you're right, no RUD today, and that's what was most important. That's the last thing that we want to see, and we're glad that they put safety over just trying to get another rocket off the pad. Safety has to be first when you're doing rocket launches. But that is going to do it for us here tonight. Thank you so much for joining and sticking with us through tonight's coverage. If you haven't yet, join us over on our Discord, follow us on Twitter, check out the shop. But that's going to do it here at the Launchpad. It's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together. And this concludes our live launch coverage of Rocket Lab's Electron's missions NROL-199 from New Zealand. We'll see you next time. But for now, this is Zach from TLP Network Studios signing off. Bye-bye.